Picture this, a perfect, sunny afternoon in one of Kashmir's most beautiful meadows. Suddenly, that peace is shattered by a brutal attack, which then spirals into a high-stakes international incident. This is the story of the Pahalgam terror attack, an event that started with a tragedy, led to a massive investigation, and ended with a swift military response. So let's break down exactly how it all went down.
It all starts on April 22, 2025, and it really boils down to this one devastating number, 26. That's 26 civilians, most of them tourists, just enjoying a day out. Their lives were cut short in a flash. That number, that's the heart of the tragedy we're about to get into.
So you have to ask, how could something like this even happen? We're going to Basaran Meadow, a place famous for its unbelievable beauty. It's a place that's supposed to be serene, which makes the minute-by-minute horror that unfolded there, and the human cost, all the more shocking.
At 2 in the afternoon, the tranquility was just gone. Militants opened fire on about 40 tourists, and what happened next was absolute chaos. But even in that terror, you saw incredible bravery. Local guides in Ponywalis, they risked their own lives trying to rescue people while bullets were still flying. In the end, the toll was just staggering. 26 people killed and over 20 more injured.
And it's so important to remember, these weren't just numbers. They were people. People like Lieutenant Vinay Narwal, a Navy officer who was newly married, Prashant Sapathi, a government official, Shailash Kadatia, a tourist from Surat. And then you have the heroes, like Nazaka Ahmed Ali Shah. He was a local guide who managed to save 11 tourists, even while his own cousin was tragically killed in the attack.
Okay, so after the immediate shock of the attack, a whole different kind of race began, the hunt for clues. This is where India's top anti-terror agency, the NIA, steps in. Their job? A methodical, painstaking search for the people behind this massacre.
Just 5 days later, on April 27th, the NIA officially took the reins of the investigation. And when the NIA gets involved, you know it's serious. It was a clear signal from the central government that this was their top priority, and they were putting their best people on it to get answers. Fast. And pretty quickly, investigators started to zero in on a main suspect, a group called the Resistance Front, or TRF. Now, to understand the TRF, you have to know that they're widely seen as a front group, a proxy for the much larger and more notorious Lashkar-e-Taiba. That connection immediately made this a major international case.
And this wasn't just some hunch. They had hard, physical evidence from the scene. I mean, check this out. Investigators found Pakistani voter ID cards, even chocolates that were made in Pakistan. But the smoking gun? Ballistics analysis that directly connected the weapons traced back to Pakistan to the bullets recovered from the victim.
But the story wasn't just external. The NIA found that the plot had roots on the ground too. They arrested 2 men, Parvez and Bashir Jothar, who were accused of giving the terrorists shelter and other logistical support. You could really feel the net closing in from every direction.
All right, so the investigation identified the suspects. Now the mission shifts from finding clues to taking action. This is where the story pivots to the response, a decisive military mission codenamed Operation Mahadev.
Here's how it all went down. First, intelligence got a lock on the terrorists' hideout deep in the forest near Srinagar. Then, over 2 days at the end of July, Indian security forces launched their joint mission. It all came to a head in a fierce gunfight that ended with all 3 wanted terrorists neutralized.
And when the dust settled, the 3 key figures were taken out: Abu Hamza, Yasser, and the man they identified as the mastermind, Suleman Shah. And get this, Shah was a former Pakistani Special Forces commando. This wasn't some random encounter. It was a targeted strike right at the attack's leadership.
Of course, the official word from the top came quickly. India's Home Minister, Amit Shah, was very direct. He called the operation a success and framed it as, in his words, justice served for the families of the victims. But, you know, a military operation like this is never really the end of the story, is it? In fact, its aftermath kicked off a political firestorm, not just in India, but around the world.
The diplomatic stage just erupted. On one side, you had India,
laying out its case with forensic evidence pointing to cross-border terrorism. On the other side, Pakistan, which flatly denied everything, called the claims fabrications and demanded an independent investigation. Two countries, two completely opposed stories.
And back in India, the government was getting heat from its own opposition. Leaders like Priyanka Gandhi and Akhilesh Yadav started asking a pretty tough question. Okay, you got them, but who's going to take responsibility for the security lapse that let this happen in the first place? Then the UN stepped into the picture. A UN Security Council report came out, and it specifically mentioned the TRF's role in the Pahalgam attack. For India, that was a huge diplomatic win. It gave them third-party material they could use to push back against Pakistan's denials on the world stage.
But let's step away from all the politics and diplomacy for a moment. Let's go back to the people this affected the most, the families. For Priyadarshini Acharya, the widow of Prashant Satpathy, this outcome meant something really profound. For her, it wasn't about geopolitics. It was about sending a clear message that justice would be served.
So the operation was a success. Justice was delivered, right? But what about the scars, the ones that aren't so visible? And it leaves us with this really big, tough question, especially in a region with such a long history of conflict. Can this cycle of attack and then retribution ever truly be broken? That's definitely something to think about long after the headlines are gone.